A suspected weed factory drug bust uncovers a clandestine Bitcoin mining operation capable of 931 terahash per second near Birmingham, UK. That's one of the stories we're going to be talking about today on the show. Also coming up, we have a mysterious Steam device that may be coming out, along with, obviously, some 3080 Ti bits. But anyways, this is Off and On Again, the show where we talk about the latest in PC gaming, hardware, and more. My name is Nick Laporte, and I'm joined, as always, by my AI co-host, Ep.18, a.k.a. Matt.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going excellent. How about yourself?
It is going fine.
Good to hear. Good to hear.
Yeah.
I was glad to install that fan last week. It seems like it's still working. Didn't pick up any of the noise. So
Okay.
Everything's working out nicely. I'm happy about that.
Good. But no rainbow RGB LEDs though.
No, I think we're just going to keep it nice and chill for now.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so we had a lot of stories this week. We actually had quite a lot of news that was collected, but we're only going to talk about a few of them today. Like I said, we already mentioned the few there. Also, we're going to be talking a little bit about Cyberpunk as it becomes a recurring theme on the show because, you know, it's just an easy one to talk about, I feel like.
It's also the biggest disappointment of the decade.
That's
Right after COVID, I guess.
I guess, yeah. That's a good point. But before we get into our main story about the weed bust turned into Bitcoin bust, I want to talk about a few things just going on with my computer things. And I finally bought myself a new hard drive so I could actually store stuff on because my PC with the SSDs were getting totally full with all this production stuff, recording the video for this podcast. So I finally went out and bought a 4 terabyte hard drive from Memory Express. And I was really happy that it was on sale. I think it was like $90-something. I was actually looking at the 8 terabyte version, but it was literally twice the price. So I was like, I'm not saving any money by going bigger. I could just get the 4 terabyte right now. It was a Seagate Barracuda, whatever, compute one. Nothing crazy. I'm basically just plugging it into my computer, dumping as much as I can onto it, unplugging it, and sticking it in a drawer for whenever I need it. But the thing that I was surprised about was when I was actually at the store. I go to the store, and every time I go to this Memory Express, or at least in recent times with this whole crazy stuff with no GPUs being available, I go there, there's a shelf where the GPUs used to be, and it's just empty. But this time, they actually had one on the shelf. They had a single GPU sitting on the shelf available, and it was a 6900 XT. I think it was the Asus TUF Gaming 6900 XT.
Okay.
And I looked at it and I stroked my chin. I was like, maybe I could buy that. So I was about to ask the guy about it as he was ringing me through for the hard drive. And some other people who were there being helped by another employee, I guess they wanted it. And he took it down and he put it in front of them and they ended up buying it. I was like, oh, man. So I looked at it afterwards. And I say only in like, you know, in quotations. It was like 1,700 Canadian. Which is a lot. But I was surprised it wasn't like at least $2,000.
That's not that bad, actually, considering the crazy prices going on these days.
Yeah. It doesn't seem to be like the most desirable graphics card. I mean, it's slightly more powerful than a 6800 XT. I think it has the same amount of RAM, 16 gigabytes, right? Yours is 16?
Yep.
Yeah, so it's like it's comparable similarly to the 3080 to the 3090. A small bump in performance, but you're not getting that extra VRAM anyways. But yeah, just there. I don't need it. Mine is fine.
Yeah. Yeah. Well. Yeah, I don't know. At this point, we're getting awfully close to what could be new GPUs. I mean, it'll be June pretty soon. Who knows? RDNA 3 could be just around the corner, which is just wild to think about.
It is. We mentioned it last week. Like it's crazy to think that we're almost a year around to the 3080 announcement.
Yeah. September 17th.
Man, if it's like, oh, RDNA 3 is coming out. It's like, we haven't even gotten RDNA 2 yet. We haven't even touched that yet. So that'll be something. I'm really hoping that this whole thing's going to start clearing up the next few months. I have my fingers crossed. I'm not going to hold my breath though. But like from what we're seeing with the prices of cryptocurrencies, and we talked about it last week with our guest Sensible Circle, it has affected the way that people are actually mining. It appears that less people are mining, at least from what he told us, and he's actually getting more coin, even though it's selling for less. I'm hoping that's going to trickle down. We're going to start to see GPUs more available on the shelf. So I think we'll talk about just a little bit about it. We're going to talk just a tiny bit about the 3080 Ti, because I'm sure there's going to be plenty more to talk about next week when hopefully it's actually announced tomorrow, which is what we're expecting from NVIDIA. It's not confirmed or anything yet, but we might hear about that. But I lost my train of thought. I don't know where I was going.
I think you're going to say that since mining is like becoming less popular, then
For
maybe
now, yeah, we might be able to get some GPUs. So yeah.
Well, there's still a ton of demand by gamers, but there are also crazy people. You know, the sort of like the professionals are going to be buying their ant miners or whatever, most likely. But there's like this, there's this type of person that, probably bought a ton of GameStop stock. They have a garage full of beans in case the apocalypse is coming, and they're like really into cryptocurrency, and they went out and bought like 20 like gamer cards to make their millions or whatever. Hopefully this will stop those kind of people who are just like buying everything because they feel like they're just, the more cards they buy, the sooner they become millionaires or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it's happened. It can happen.
It can happen, but like there are literally, it's just so sad. Like I can't remember the name of the subreddit, but there's like some kind of like mining related subreddit where people are just posting their mining rigs, and they're, it's full of RGB LEDs. Like those are not, they're not mining cards. Those are meant for childish gamers who need to see rainbows.
Hey,
in addition to graphics.
Is that like a personal attack or something?
I just mean like if a mining card wouldn't be like full of rainbows. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's for people to like do a build and show off their case and play some games. There's that when you're trying to be profitable, you don't want a ton of LEDs like sucking up power.
Yeah, we're just having to spend the money on the vanity part of it, which doesn't matter or shouldn't matter at all in those cases. Yeah, so all I want to say is, like, if I can get my hands on a graphics card in the next month, I'll be really happy. But at the same time, when it comes to these prices, I'm just still conflicted. I'm like, I can't even go there. And then when you think about it, say even get my hands on a 3080 or 3070 even, 3080 Ti. It doesn't matter what it is. It's likely going to be one of these LHR versions. So it's like, oh, well, now you're even more constrained in actually scraping back a bit of that money that you spent on the thing, on mining just a little bit while you're not using the thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's only limiting Ethereum for now, anyways.
What's the other ones, like Cardano or something?
I don't know too much about it. I know Raven was briefly more profitable than Ethereum, but that didn't. I mean, it was very brief, but it's still kind of close.
Raven.
Is
it just called Raven or Raven Coin?
Raven Coin.
Raven Coin is worth 0.07, so 7 cents, 7 or 8 cents.
But it's not. I mean, it's not exact. It's not what it's worth. It's how profitable is it? Like, if
okay, I gotcha.
if you spend a day mining it, how much would you make?
I gotcha. Okay.
You know, in my if I was using both my cards and my setup, there's this website called whattomine.com. You can plug in your, actually, I don't want to give anybody tips on this stuff. Get back to gaming. Yeah, if I just mining Ethereum at this point, I would make $5.21 a day, which is way down from what it has been. And Ravencoin, $3.95 a day.
Okay. It's still substantial. It's something. It's pretty.
It's something, but I mean, Ethereum used to be double that. And at its highest point, like a few weeks ago, it was like over $20 a day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's substantial. Interesting. Well, yeah, you know what? I don't want to hash over this stuff anymore.
Ha 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 ha.
You think I'm that clever that I can actually come with puns like that?
You mean you didn't intend that?
No, it was deliberate. It was deliberate.
Okay.
Anyways, this first story, suspected weed factory drug bust uncovers a clandestine Bitcoin mining operation. And like I said, this is coming from the UK, somewhere near or inside Birmingham. And yeah, Matt, this is a story that you found. And when I saw the picture, this is on WCCF Tech, by the way, covered by Usman Perzada. The photo they have here is fantastic. Essentially, it looks something like some kind of warehouse with these giant makeshift tubes in the background that are going behind this board. And then in front of this big board is racks of these mining rigs. Essentially, they're not like what you would think of as like a GPU on a machine or anything. These are specific made mining systems. And I think they said they are estimating that they had about 69 of them, which would be able to produce 931 terahash per second, which would net them about $5,000 per month. Crazy. I love it.
Yeah, it's so funny though, because that like grow ops have been a thing in the news like for years. And it's a thing like in Canada. There have been very big grow ops. There was a Molson beer factory that shut down because they now make all the supposedly Canadian beer in South America where it's cheaper. But that closed down factory like somehow became a grow op, like a massive grow op, which is I find just so funny. But it's a thing. The telltale signs of a grow op are using lots of power. Lots of heat, lots of, people going in and out at strange hours, the windows covered up or whatever. So yeah, the police go around with like heat cameras and they can see like, there's their houses with no snow on the roof because of all the heat from, I guess, the lights or whatever in a grow up. But like all those signs would be like very similar to a mining operation. They've got the ventilation and the power draw, the heat, people going in and out, probably boarded up windows or closed windows. It's so funny. It's like, oh man, I totally, I get what, or I don't know. It just seems really funny to me. Let me read the statement from the West Midlands Police. So it says, we executed a drugs warrant on the 18th of May at a premises on an industrial unit, and uncovered a cryptocurrency mine, in quotes, that was stealing thousands of pounds worth of electricity from the mains supply. We heard how lots of people were visiting the unit at different times of day. Lots of wiring and ventilation ducts were visible. And a police drone picked up a considerable heat source from above. So yeah, all the things that I was saying. These are all classic cannabis factory signs, but when officers gained entry, they found a huge bank of around 100 computer units as part of what's understood to be a Bitcoin mining operation. The warrant was one of almost 50 executed as part of the county lines into blah, 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 blah. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So, yeah. I wonder which is more profitable, actually.
Yeah.
Like the grow up or the mining operation?
I would have to say 100% the grow up would be more profitable in the UK than this $5,000 a month setup. It's just so funny that like it wasn't just turned out like this was a legal operation. It was literally an illegal Bitcoin operation because they were stealing electricity to make it happen. Like, it's funny. Yeah, it's unusual to think that's there. It's but at the same time, my first reaction when seeing stories is like this. It's like, why is growing weed illegal still in modern, like, developed countries? It just seems so silly now. You know, here in Canada, it's been legal for how long? Almost 2 years?
No, 4 years.
4 years?
Yeah,
it's been that long?
October 2017, I think it was.
Wow, time flies. Yeah, and it's funny. This is totally off topic, but like to think like how doom and gloom it seemed before for some people. Like I remember talking to my parents who are in like the boomer generation, and my stepdad was like, he had all these points about it. It's like, oh, like what if, you know, you're going to have your weed on the shelf, like with your booze, and your kid's going to be taking the weed. It's like, what do you think kids are doing in high school already? Like, this is not changing that. Like like I understood his points, like, but it's not changing. Everything's the same here, except that you can smoke weed and the police won't bother you. And before, it's not like they did anyways. It's just such a, I don't know, it seems antiquated that people are having to resort to making these makeshift cannabis farms. Or Bitcoin farms, whatever.
Yeah. It is, I don't know. I could talk at length about this whole thing, so maybe I won't. But, you know, it's probably going to be, a grow up versus a Bitcoin mining operation, the Bitcoin one or Ethereum or whatever, is going to be probably less work, like, because you just kind of have to sit there and make the money. Whereas the grow up, you'd have to like I don't know, cut it all and bag it and sell it and all that kind of stuff. Like, it seems like, you know, a mining operation could be like one guy. The other thing, you need like an army.
That's true. I suspect like if you had a modest area, say the size of like a 2,000 square foot area, you could probably pull in like, I have no idea about this stuff, but I would imagine just throwing a dart out there, just $1 million for something like that for like weed, at least before Prohibition. I don't know about now. It's so easy to get weed here in Canada. There's stores everywhere, at least here where I live. I couldn't imagine having to go to an illegal source.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, we have like, we don't have any stores here like close to me because of, I guess there's like the mayor or somebody of my particular town decided that he's not going to allow any within our city limits. But I mean, there's like delivery and stuff like that. If should I want it?
It's starting to go over another edge too. Here is mushroom dispensaries. I keep seeing signs all like on street posts and stuff for mushroom dispensary downtown. This and that. You just go pick up mushrooms now. It's weird.
Well, I guess do they grow wild out there or something?
I'm sure they do. People probably seed them as well.
That's what I had heard.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a more, well, I guess, I don't know. It's a more natural thing versus like weed, which is like a tropical plant.
True. Yeah. That makes sense.
I don't know what my point is on that, but yeah, it's interesting, the whole thing. I don't, also, I'm really like actually not a fan of alcohol. And there's no reason why alcohol should be legal in these other soft drugs not be?
If there's anything, there's probably more reason that alcohol would be illegal and the other ones be legal. But even then, I'm not one to support that. Anyway, this is not supposed to be like a political show where we talk about drug issues and things like that. But speaking about mushrooms, when you think about that here, heard lots of stories about people going like, what do they call that? Urban foraging and stuff like that. People going to the parks nearby and picking out mushrooms and turning out that they're death caps sometimes. It's hard to tell them apart from other mushrooms, allegedly. I don't go pick random mushrooms, but people's kids dying after being fed these mushrooms. Pretty horrifying.
So, wait. Are they trying to find psychedelic mushrooms and then they give them to their kids?
No.
Or they're trying to find like
mushrooms
for like their salads and pizzas or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. You don't want to.
Don't do that.
You don't want to do that.
It's unsafe.
I mean, that's something I learned as a kid, like in Scouts or whatever. Like, yeah, that mushroom may look like the one that's on your pizza, but definitely can't trust that.
Yeah, exactly. And so about this whole operation that says they haven't found the guy, the perp was not caught. So, or they don't know if he was or not. But it's so curious. It's like, dude, if you just paid for your electricity, you wouldn't have had this issue. But then again, who knows how much electricity he's drawing? Because allegedly these actual machines he was using, they aren't efficient at all. And they're quite outdated.
Yeah. Well, that's probably a good reason to steal the electricity.
Yeah.
Make it more profitable.
I think imagine he's like pulling like $10,000 worth of electricity a month, just like they had to turn on the auxiliary power at the power plant just to keep things going as he turns this thing on. But it was free for him, so that works out. His whole exhaust system is just fantastic, though, in the back. I love that.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay, what's next on the docket here? Oh, yes. Valve. Matt, we talked about this a few weeks ago. Do you want
we
to?
Did.
Do you want to lead this one?
Okay, so let's just rewind back to a little quote from Gabe Newell that we had on our show a couple of weeks ago. Newell was at, or I guess he was probably virtually at some kind of college. I don't know. Speaking to a class. So somebody asked him, will Steam be porting any games on consoles or will it just stay on PC? The answer was from Gabe, you will get a better idea of that by the end of this year. And it won't be the answer you expect, Newell said. You'll say, aha, now I get what he was talking about. So with that in mind, here's some news. So Valve has been secretly building, allegedly, a Switch-like portable PC designed to run a large number of games on the Steam PC platform via Linux, and it could launch, supply chain willing, by year's end. On Tuesday of, I don't know what week, I guess it was this past week, Steam DB operator Pavel...
Jundik.
We'll just call... What? We'll just call him Pavel. Spotted the change in Steam's code, which pointed to a new device called Steam Pal. What do you think about that?
Steam Pal. It's a Steam buddy. Yeah. When I first heard the name Steam Pal, I thought of it some kind of like companion to Steam, which I was like, in my mind, I was like, I can't think of anything of what that might be. And even from what we've read from this article and what they're alluding to is that it's going to be some kind of Switch-like device, right? And still, like, I feel like it doesn't fit quite right. That's beside the point. But this whole idea of a machine, not a Steam machine, as we've had kind of failed in the past, but a handheld machine that can just run Steam games, sounds like a really good prospect. And I think it's something that will have some longevity, especially if it's in a fashion where we can get it being made by different manufacturers. And we already had, right? I think in this article they point to one that was made by Alienware when they revealed their first Switch-like machine. And obviously coming from Dell It was a small Switch-like device. It looks very much like a Switch. Obviously, the Joy-Cons don't come off of it. It's hard attached to the sides, but you can play Steam games on it. So essentially, it's a tablet with a controller. You can play Steam games. I think this is fantastic. If this is what they're actually building, I think this is really cool.
Yeah, was it a Razer thing or something? Razer tablet that had big joysticks on it. Is it let's see, Razer Edge?
So this Alienware one, you actually can remove.
Okay, but was that a long time ago, or is that a current one?
Oh yeah, this was last year. This is almost a year, or actually almost exactly a year ago. Yeah.
Yeah, the Razer Edge was from 2013. Anyway, I think the first question is, do you want this? Do you want a portable PC gaming system?
Personally, no. I don't have much of a use case for it. Not until I have a full self-driving car where I can sit in and just play a game where that would be fine.
Like the Tesla, while they, for laws reasons and everything, I don't think you can operate the games while you're
There's
driving.
Workarounds.
Yeah, well, you don't want to do that and end
up
you
a
don't. Flaming wreck. But still, a Tesla has the ability to play games.
Yes, and make fart sounds.
Yes. But I would also say that I don't really need this. Especially if they're PC games. Like a lot of what we like about PC games are the flexibility of how you play them. Grand Theft Auto. Sometimes I play with the mouse and keyboard. Sometimes I play with a controller. Sometimes both. Sometimes I'm running around shooting with the mouse and keyboard. I get in a car. I pick up the controller. Maybe that's not everybody, but still, with a handheld system, like there's just so many compromises. Like, I have a Nintendo Switch. I barely use it. If there are cross-platform games out on the Switch, like I'm getting them on literally any other platform, even iPad over the Switch. Screen's so small. You've generally got little teeny joysticks and they're right at the edge of the system. So if you have adult-sized thumbs, like they're like in a really awkward position. Yeah, I don't really know.
I think it depends what kind of power they can actually fit into this thing. Obviously, with PC games, there's a huge range of compatibility issues when it comes to performance and what you need to play certain games, like we talked about recently. Like I've been playing a lot of Age of Empires, so you play that on anything versus like something like Cyberpunk. I don't think you're going to be able to get a machine anytime soon, at least not in the next year, that can play something like that that's like in a tablet form. Maybe when we start to get this more super resolution stuff, DLSS, that might be the case. But right now, the only people I could see using this would be the younger generations for the most part. And I think it gives you that flexibility. Like you talk about, it's about flexibility. Well, now like the Switch where you can plunk it down, play it on your TV, or take it with you. I feel like this is something you can also do where you have your Steam library on your machine at home, but you can also take it with you if you want to. Now, when it comes to that versatility versus mouse and keyboard and a gamepad, I'm with you there. I do the same thing when I'm playing GTA. I switch back and forth between mouse and keyboard and gamepad while I'm playing. But I imagine with the younger generations, the popularity of certain games and esports, and the way that it appears to me that PC gaming is actually a growing sector, that this could be something that could actually work.
Yeah, it certainly, it is kind of already working. As the Nintendo Switch, it's just not PC. It's just not PC games. It's other games and they work very well. The problem is when you try to start putting games not made for, let's just pretend it looks like a Nintendo Switch, like a 7-inch screen and only joysticks. Now try playing Age of Empires.
Yeah.
Like you
I
can't
remember
see.
playing StarCraft 64, man. It was terrible. It was so bad with that N64 controller. Yeah, don't play RTS on there. It's no good.
Yeah, so while, I'm sure playing Fortnite and Among Us and Rocket League would probably be fine on it, there's going to be a lot of games that are likely not going to be fine. Assuming it looks like a Switch and it has like a kind of small screen. And
yeah,
I do play games, PC games on my iPad. Just wirelessly through my network, using like connecting via Steam Link or whatever. I think I talked about this last time. But that works really well. It's just not fully like in the hands. I hold the controller and I put the iPad down in front of me on a table or something like that.
right.
But that's like almost a 13-inch screen. It's pretty great.
Yeah, you have a good point there with the size of the screen. If it is something like a Switch, if it does it, I'm sure it will have some kind of Bluetooth capability. If this, like again, this is all assuming this is going to be real. I think it'd still be fine for using that if you have some kind of small, even if it's not even a full keyboard, you just have your WASD on one side and you've got a small wireless mouse. That could be something nice. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of games that aren't going to work out well on this, for sure. But then again, there's such a breadth of games on there. Like, there's so many games on Steam that are not even just on Steam, but in general on PC. I feel like there's so many games you can play with a gamepad, and that are meant for gamepad. So I don't know. Maybe you could leave the things on the wayside, but saying like throwing out the baby with the bathwater is just not the way to go. I feel like in this respect. Like, how many games are on Steam? I don't even know. I don't know. I have no idea. Tens of thousands? Over 100,000?
I don't know. I know how many apps are on Epic Game Store. It's 5.
That's a good point. Okay, what do we got here? Number of games released? Okay.
How many
million?
games on Steam? There's no way it's a million, is it? There's no way.
Million? Okay, here we go. This is released. Wow. 7 in the first year? Tens of thousands. It's gotta be tens of thousands.
50,000.
50,000 games on
As of January 2021, on the US Steam store, there are just over 50,000 games on Steam.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just thinking like if I was someone who traveled a lot, say I lived in a big city where I had to take the train or something, public transit to work every day, this could be really, really fun to use. It's not for me right now, but yeah, I could imagine people using this for sure. I'm just thinking about playing, like if it had cellular, or if you could even just tether it to your phone, play a game that doesn't need super low latency. This could be a lot of fun. I wish Nintendo had better multiplayer access. I feel like that's an issue. It's been there for a long time. Like I remember the DS days. I think I had a DS Lite, and just trying to connect to like my brother's DS or something. It was just like you got to put in the pin and everything. It just felt so limited. And I feel like I don't know what the Switch is like. I've only used one once. Can you give me some insight? Like, what is it like using the Switch online?
Yeah, it's still like summoning the dead or something. Like it's just I don't even know how it works. You can't just you don't have a friends list. You can add people's ridiculous their social security number or whatever. Like there's this weird friend codes that I think are game specific per person. So you need to get somebody's friend code for a specific game. Then you can add them in that game. You can play with them in the game. If you want to have voice chat, you need a separate device, a phone, and you get the Nintendo Switch Online app, and then you can have voice chat with them in that app.
That's too much.
Yeah, and there's like 3 games that supports it,
Oh god.
or at least that I know of. It's not really a thing. Nintendo has their reasons. They want it to be like, they want to be like Disney safe. So they don't want kids like being exposed to. Well, I mean, we've talked about this in the past, like why we don't generally like play online or at least use voice chat, because people are just horrible in general, or at least they say horrible things.
Yeah, on the internet it gets pretty crazy. It's funny, like I don't know if things have gotten less toxic or what, or maybe it's just the games that I play online with random people. There's very few games I play online with random people. Maybe like Call of Duty was the most recent one, which was a little while ago. Obviously play Rocket League, but people usually are pretty quiet on there. They use the quick chat. They'll what to save you several times after missing a save. But like, that's the extent of it. It's not too bad. It was called the N-word a few weeks ago. But yeah, I survived that. You gotta be careful out there.
Yeah, I did. I wasn't on voice chat, but I had some good experiences. I played some GTA Online recently. And people were just sort of being like fun and relaxed. It was nice.
I feel like most people are getting closer to that. It feels less anonymous a bit sometimes.
Yeah, I think also when games are on their way out, sometimes the toxic people move on to different things, maybe.
Yeah, that's possible.
So like there aren't as many just like random people on their PlayStation 3s like hating life and everybody who they encounter in Grand Theft Auto Online.
Yeah. But
It's
it
like
also seems like, sorry, go ahead.
I don't. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, like, when games get closer to the end stage, it feels like a lot more non-English speaking players are in there. Like, you'll just see Russian spam or something, or Korean people just like, well, if you play StarCraft, I mean, that's going to happen. But, like, that's what I found in some cases. Maybe I'm just playing really old games, like jumping in, trying to play Battlefield 1942 online. That's funny. I can't believe I still like that game. It doesn't make any sense.
In GTA Online, there were definitely a lot of bots coming in and spamming the chat, trying to get to sell like bootleg shark cards or whatever.
Yeah.
So there was definitely like a sort of camaraderie between the real players occurred, because everybody was having fun like ripping on like the awful spam bots. I don't know.
All right. Well, we've digressed enough. So I have no idea the validity of this. So this is essentially spun from a code that was seen, like we said, by Pavel, Mr. Pavel. It spotted changes in the Steam code that named it as Steam Pal. Used to be Neptune. So yeah, I'd like to see this. Like, I'd like to see it out there. I'd like to see something succeed, because with the Steam machines, obviously that didn't work out. They obviously have the capital. They have the people to make this happen. They could afford to get the people if they needed more people to make this happen. And I think as we get to a point where people are going to be moving around a lot more, traveling more, it could be something that actually works out. Obviously, Switch is really popular, but again, Nintendo's in its own walled garden, and that turns into its own thing with their whole IP. It sells itself in a sense, like with Pokemon and Mario and all that, and Zelda. So it's a gamble.
I kind of wish though that Steam would do something new, because it's not really like there are actually handheld gaming PCs out there. They're probably not from brands you've heard of. GPD, I think, is one brand. They're making like Windows handheld like gaming computers, and they're making a lot of them, and they're getting better and better. But I don't know. I wish Valve would do something like wild, because they have in the past, like the Vive, Steam VR. Like all this stuff was totally groundbreaking. But making a PC Nintendo Switch is, I don't care. I don't care that it runs on Linux. Like it could run Windows. I'd be totally fine with that as long as it runs the games.
What if it has Steam touchpad controllers?
I never tried those. I was very skeptical of them.
All reviews were not very good for the most part, as far as I saw. I hope they have joysticks, if it is.
Well, I guess the Vive has like similar touchpads.
Yeah.
They were okay, but I mean, in VR, you're doing like bigger like swipes and things like that.
Yeah, you're doing that like notch turning and stuff.
Yeah, you weren't like trying to like aim, like two joystick like FPS style stuff.
No.
So maybe this thing will have VR built in or something wild like that. Like what if it's a full PC in a VR headset or something?
That'd be cool, but I don't think it's happening yet. Like I said, there needs to be so much more optimization that needs to help smaller devices be able to actually pump out something that's usable. And when it comes to VR, optimization is first and foremost.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'd be cool. I'd love to see it. I'd love like a nice element.
I really want like competitor for the Oculus, whatever it's called.
Adventure.
The what?
The Oculus Adventure.
That's not what it's called, is it?
It's Quest.
Right. Okay. Gotcha.
Sorry.
Okay. Moving on.
Moving on. Last week we talked about the 3080 Ti, and there was some news from Pakistan where they had pre-orders out. Well, it happened again. We got more price leaks from the UK, and these are several models they had. Mainly the Supreme X, which would be equivalent to $2,000, $559. I don't know why I said dollars twice, but I did. Deal with it. But yeah, anyways, ranging from just above $2,000 to $2,500 USD equivalency. That's expensive. We're probably not going to see this when it comes to actual in US prices. They're probably going to be under 2,000, maybe some of them reaching up to that 2,000 mark. Some people are suspecting that the Founders Edition 3080 Ti is going to be around $999 and maybe $1,100. But as we've seen in the past, with this whole past year, with the Founders Edition versus third-party cards, is that the third-party cards are at a serious premium, especially now with the shortages. You can bet that these guys are going to be taking advantage of that to try to get some of that scalper cash, because why wouldn't they? Big money. Yeah, it's untenable. I couldn't imagine, like earlier in the show we were talking about like getting a 3080 Ti. Could I do that? There's no way I'm going to pay over $2,000 for a graphics card. It's not happening. No, sir. I'm not going to do it. It's ridiculous.
Well, you're going to have to do something someday.
Well, maybe the next generation will actually have some availability and I can pick something up for a reasonable price. That'd be nice. Maybe I'll just have to keep my eye on the AMD store so I get one of their reference cards at MSRP.
Yeah.
Just keep rolling the dice. Anyways. Also, the 3080 Ti Founders Edition will be using the 3080 FE cooler design. So just like the 3080 FE, the cooler design, that pass-through design, revolutionary, the one that I still love and I think looks fantastic, they're going to be using the same one for the 3080 Ti, the same size, even though the 3080 Ti is going to be hotter. It's going to be using more power. You see the difference between 3080 and 3090? Quite a beefy difference. 3090 is huge, man. You got that extra weight, better heat soak. It's going to be able to release more of that heat, not happening with a 3080 Ti. So this is actually slightly a concern Personally, I wouldn't be too concerned about it. From what I saw with the RTX 3080 Founders Edition card, the cooling was definitely not as good as the third-party cards, but it was certainly good enough. It wasn't bad by any means. So I think it's going to be fine, but it's going to be at the upper limits. And when I first saw this thing, all I can think is, why not just stick, maybe use some, what do you call that, zip ties or something? Attach another fan to the middle of that cooler, like on the bottom, pushing up, or even pulling down, I suppose. With all those fins there in the middle, you could cool it quite a bit, I feel like.
Yeah,
it's a possibility.
I had a distraction. This is about the listener mail?
No,
you're talking. We haven't got to that yet. Sorry.
We're talking about the 3080 Ti.
Okay,
Founders
sorry.
Edition. It's okay. Yeah, I was saying, we could put another fan on this thing right in the middle, on the underside of the Founders Edition cooler. So that could work, maybe. But again, like I said, I don't think it's going to be a huge deal unless you're going to be trying to overclock this thing. It's not really, I don't know. I'm not huge on that. But yeah, it's an extra 30 watts that it's allegedly going to be using over the 3080. So
yikes.
More power, more heat. It's already a ton. So 350 watts TDP. It's big. That's a lot of heat. So hopefully it's fine and it's not going to be overheating regularly. I don't think it's going to be a huge problem, but again, you may have to replace that thermal paste at some point in a year or two to keep things reasonable. But again, like when it comes to third-party cards, the cooling is fantastic on those things. It's not going to be a problem. But yeah, I'm not surprised that they did this. In this article, this is from Tom's Hardware. They seemed a bit surprised that they're still using this cooler for the 3080 Ti. And I'm just like, why? They do this every time. When have we not seen them use their Founders Edition or reference cards, whatever they want to call it? They usually just stick a TI on there. They don't change the cooler. As far as I can remember.
Yeah, I can't recall specifically. I've never had a reference card before, and I'm not usually in the market for them. In the past, they
used to be more expensive.
Yeah, and they used to be like blower cards, which I wasn't really interested in. And I'm very much attracted to lots of big fans, so I generally went with the partner boards.
Fair enough. Yeah, so we're expecting the Founders Edition, to be $999, like I said, to $1,100, somewhere around there. But again, probably only going to be available at Best Buy in the US. Rip everybody else. I really want one. If you get one, I'll buy it. I'll buy it from you. I still want one of these things. They look great.
There was this guy, I think it was on the PC Master Race subreddit. He was from India, and he was like trying to tell everybody like how bad it is in his country and everything, and everybody was just like, dude, that's the same way it is everywhere.
Yeah, it's bad. It's real bad.
Yeah.
That's funny.
He's like, so please, you have to listen to me. The cards are really expensive. Like, yeah, we know.
It's probably worse there, but yeah, it is really bad everywhere. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh man, like I say, I want one, but I've given up looking a long time ago. I don't even know what things are looking like right now. I have no idea, because most sites, when you go to them, if they don't have it in stock, sometimes they won't even show the prices. I think that just gives them the freedom to change it up as they go. So when they actually do get in stock, they can reevaluate what they can actually sell it for. Let's go on Craigslist, local listings. Let's just see what a 3080 is going for. Joe, what the hell? What? Okay, it's worse than I thought it would be. Okay, $4,000. Anywhere from $2,700 to over $3,000 for an RTX 3080. Oh, here we go, $2,500. That's the cheapest I found. That's insane, man. That is insane. GeForce RTX 3070, $1,800 to $2,100. Here we go, $3,200, 3080 EVGA FTW 3 Ultra. Man, that is something else, man. There's a lot of them up here too. I don't blame them. Like if at some point I'd be like, you pick one of these up, you're like, I just spent $1,400 on this thing. I could just basically double it, get like profit. But again, like I don't know who's buying this. There's a lot of listings. Usually there's not this many.
Yeah. Meanwhile, like AMD is selling their cards direct to people at MSRP.
Yeah. It's doable.
Yeah. $1,200 for the 6900 XT. That's US.
From their site?
From their site.
Wow. Yeah, it's too bad. They could do something about it, but obviously that would cost them money, and it's probably just easier for them to let things sell, let the prices go up. It ups their, I guess, prestige value in a sense, makes it look more desirable, makes it look like a premium item, and in the end, they get to win when they can sell you a bunch of 3060s or whatever at some point when they finally get a big stock of them for an inflated price. Yeah. I don't have my hat on for this, but you know what I mean. It just seems that way. It just seems nefarious in a way. Like they don't care. We talked about this a bunch. They don't really care. They're making big cash and they're okay with it. Anyways, we'll be covering the 3080 Ti in the next couple weeks. I'm sure there's going to be lots of news about it, especially next week. And we expect to see an actual announcement from NVIDIA, and I really hope to see that. But until we get there, all this stuff is mostly speculation anyway. So good luck to anybody who's looking for a graphics card. So really hoping that people can finally just get it, especially if you don't have one. It's crazy. It's insane.
Yeah, good luck. As long as you haven't already given up.
Yes. All right, we got some Raider listener mail here from HD Dame. I don't know if that's how you say that, but anyways, thank you for the message. It says, hey, hello, I have a question regarding my GPU, if you could help. I have an EVGA GTX 1070 SC, and I want to change the paste for it. Someone told me I have to change something called thermal pads with the thermal paste. Do you recommend that? I'm using the Corsair XTM50, which is thermal paste. Thank you for the message, first and foremost. Yeah, I had a video on this. Maybe you saw that, and that's why you messaged me about it. Changing the thermal paste. I did this on my 1070 and the results were unbelievable. I think I dropped it it was double digits at least. It was huge. It was crazy. Fixed my performance issues in certain games that required higher frame rates. It was great. Do you need to change the thermal pads? No, absolutely not. Unless they're destroyed, unless you took apart your GPU and they all ripped apart. No, there's no reason to do that. You're not going to get very little, if any, heat difference, because those are going to be on your VRMs or your VRAM, and honestly it's not going to be a difference, and it's going to be such a hassle just finding the right thickness and pliability that it's, in my opinion, it's not worth it unless they're destroyed. There's no reason to replace those. Have you ever had to do that, Matt?
No, I haven't. As I mentioned before, I haven't done too much GPU taking apart because it's the most expensive part in your computer, and unless it was broken, I never really took it apart. Yeah. I also like to say that in the way I believe it is, a thermal pad is different than the thermal tape you would probably find on a GPU.
Yeah, that's true.
Thermal pad, I believe, are those graphite things that you can use on a CPU or perhaps a GPU to replace, like instead of paste, they're super thin, almost like a piece of metal paper or something like that. A thermal tape is like the double-sided kind of gooey stuff that you might have on the back of your board just in random places just to move some heat from the back of your board to the back plate, or it may be across your VRMs or your memory or something like that. That stuff would be, it's generally thicker and sticky on both sides most of the time. Well, actually, maybe not. But it's definitely thicker because it's made to, conduct heat from like not even surfaces to a heat sink or a heat spreader. Am I right?
Yeah.
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 Because you couldn't just put paste all over like a bunch of random little chips and circuits and little boxy things and stuff all over your GPU.
Oh my God.
It just wouldn't work.
Imagine trying to clean that up. That'd be such a pain.
It would be such a mess.
Even just cleaning off
this tape
once.
stuff is much easier. You just put it across, it fills in the gaps, it stays clean and everything, and it still moves heat away.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, no need to replace it unless it's destroyed. Even if it's slightly kind of deformed, it's going to be fine. It's not a big deal. I think the dry thermal paste on the actual die is the biggest issue. Get that change and you're going to have a good time. Yeah, especially something that old. Something 4+ years old. Definitely go try to change the thermal paste, because at least in my experience, it's crazy. Like, I'm talking full on dry as a bone, thermal paste on there that just crumbles off as you take the thing apart. It's well worth the time it takes to do that. It's pretty simple too. All right. Thank you for that message. And we got one more news thing here coming up. Like we mentioned, Cyberpunk has a new game director. And I point all Cyberpunk stuff to you, Matt. So I haven't played it yet.
So unsurprisingly, Cyberpunk has a new game director because the original one left the company. I personally have never said anything bad about this person. I hope others haven't, though I wouldn't be surprised if they had. So it's totally understandable that somebody might want to get away from that sort of environment where people are constantly directing negative things at him. So we have a new person. Hopefully they can do something about this game. It's been out for 6 months now. It's still largely the same game that was released. They've made some fixes, but it's still very broken, very incomplete. It's still not on the PlayStation Store. I don't know if that's just for PS4 or for both systems. But I don't know. Hopefully they can do something. Hopefully they can salvage this game at some point. Like No Man's Sky style, where they took a game that was, they made a lot of promises. They didn't deliver on first release, but eventually they got it right and it became pretty amazing. Still some issues, but it was really, I would still say, a very good game by the time I got to it, which was maybe a year or two later. So hopefully they can do that. They've got a new game director. It must be very difficult for them to, at this, where they are now, because they want to fix this game as fast as possible. But going as fast as possible, it got them in this situation in the first place. Or at least a poor time management skills. So we'll see. Hopefully this is a good sign. And, again, I'd really like to play this game, but it's just still not doing it for me. It's one of those games. We were talking about this in the pre-show. We were talking about game tutorials and how so many games just like front load the game tutorial. It's like, half an hour or whatever, where you can't access the menus sometimes, and like it's just like you're stuck on this path and there's nothing you can do about it. But then when you put the game down after that, playing it for your first hour or whatever, you come back a week later, you have no idea how to play the game because they just tried to force feed you all these mechanics right at the very beginning. Cyberpunk is very much like that for me. So I come back into the game and I'm just shooting everybody. I'm not using my X-ray vision hacking abilities or whatever, because I don't even remember what button it is. Anyway, that's just a me thing. Yeah, I don't know. It's still really, I'm still sort of hopeful for the future of this game. But, I mean, it's been 6 months.
It's a little while. It's a little while for it to, still be in that state, but I can imagine it's disappointing, obviously. And I'm sure many, many people feel that a multitude more than I have, because again, I haven't played it, but I was just looking forward to actually playing it. I'm definitely a person who waits for the reviews before I buy things, except for that new F1 game, which I can't believe I did that. But anyways, yeah, like you said, like No Man's Sky, that has a great arc where it came out and the hype was way much higher than what it actually was. And same thing happened with Cyberpunk, but hopefully the same thing can happen with Cyberpunk, where it turns around and it comes out to be a really great game for the most part. Obviously, like you said, it's not perfect. Playing No Man's Sky, I pumped in, I think, 90 hours into that game. It was a lot of fun, but it got really repetitive at some point, and I was like, just bored of it. But yeah, looking forward to seeing the changes here. So hopefully this new CEO or head of project, what's this position? Game director.
Yeah,
can help turn things around. That'd be awesome. Yeah.
Yep. And hopefully they don't just abandon it completely like Anthem 2.0.
Yeah. Yeah, that game, I played that probably like a few hours of that on Xbox and then just, I don't know what happened. Just didn't play it anymore. Weird.
Yep. Huh.
Well, it feels weird cutting this short. It isn't not necessarily short. We've been talking for an hour already, but it's definitely a much shorter show than normal. That's not by accident. I got stuff to do all week, and I'm not going to be able to have time to edit it, so I got to do it tonight. So if it's super long, it's going to take me super long to edit, and I just don't have the time for that. So anyways, guys, thanks a lot for listening. I really appreciate it. Thanks for watching. If you're on YouTube, please leave us a like. It helps a lot. If you're listening to the audio version, you know what to do. Go to iTunes, wherever you listen to it, leave us a rating. It's really great. We really appreciate it. And if you want the extended or the ad-free show, you can go to Tech Illiterate on Patreon to join us there to get access to that, along with a few other goodies. So this has been Off and On Again, and we'll see you next week.